Can you believe it? High heels were invented to avoid stepping in poop. Perfume was created to mask the stench of feces, and princess dresses were designed for easy public urination and defecation. Yes, this all took place in what we think of as the Romantic era of medieval Europe, which was far dirtier than you might imagine. The streets and even the Grand Versailles Palace were littered with human waste. Walking down the street, you'd better carry an umbrella, lest you get hit by falling excrement. Noble women, adorned in their splendid, voluminous princess gowns, would simply relieve themselves where they stood, especially during long banquets, leaving behind quite the unsanitary scene. To combat the pervasive odor, King Louis XIV of France, who wasn't fond of bathing, popularized the use of perfume to cover up both body odor and the smell of feces, making it a sought-after luxury among the aristocracy. Additionally, Europeans invented high heels and stockings to keep their feet clean from the muck, with the tallest heels reaching up to 50 centimeters, illustrating the depth of the filth on the streets. The prevailing feudal mindset, which held that everything, including dust and waste, was created by God, led people to see public urination and defecation as something not to be ashamed of, but rather a point of pride. This, combined with the high population density and the absence of indoor plumbing, turned entire cities into veritable cesspools. No wonder Voltaire remarked on this era as dirty and barbaric, highlighting the stark difference between the idealized view of medieval Europe and its grimy reality.
Did you know that in medieval Europe, people used to believe that bathing would make them sick? As a result, they would go weeks or even months without taking a bath, leading to widespread sickness. Doctors even recommended that women looking to conceive should drink a potion made from crushed beetles. Can you imagine drinking that? And that's just a glimpse into our ridiculous history.
The most disgusting customs of the Middle Ages, the Queen Isabella of Castile frequently boasted about her status as a warrior queen, often emphasizing her adherence to certain customs. Among these, she proudly proclaimed that she had only taken 2 baths in her entire lifetime, one upon her birth and the other prior to her wedding. Weddings were typically scheduled for June, as May was considered the month when bathing was most frequent. This practice led to the tradition of bridal bouquets intended to mask any potential odors. Additionally, fans were commonly utilized by women to conceal their decaying teeth and to mitigate unpleasant breath. Hair should be as long as possible, and the more oily, the better. Tiaras and hats were also usually used to hide lice and prevent them from falling into food. During this era, the state of one's teeth was indicative of wealth, with rot and yellowness signifying access to expensive commodities like sugar. Furthermore, there was a belief that excessive washing of a woman's private parts could lead to infertility, so she had to live with that odor.
What was intimate hygiene like in the Middle Ages? Baths were taken in a communal tub in each house. The problem was that the water was reused, and the average bath was about once a year. Women washed their hair every 30 days with caustic soda soap, and in those days oily hair was considered healthy. As there was no toothpaste back then, they used a paste made from aromatic herbs, and chewing urine was a relatively common habit to combat bad breath. Clothes were washed a few times a year too, and a mixture of caustic soda, river water, and urine was used. Yes, pee to wash clothes. Imagine the smell. People did their business almost anywhere. Some places had these boxes in the house, and others had potties, which they used and threw out of the window. Brides had to carry a bouquet of flowers close to their bodies to disguise the smell, and that's where the bridal bouquet came from.
The Pilgrims didn't wash their ass. Why were the Pilgrims and the European settlers so reluctant to cleanse themselves? Well, I found an excellent article from History.com that discusses this very topic. Before we get into that, how did natives wash themselves, and how did it impact and influence those who were newly arrived? So Native Americans would use cold water and different plants, like the soapweed yucca plant, in order to cleanse themselves. Many plants have antimicrobial properties, and they even used plant fibers to help exfoliate the skin. In addition, they also had mouthwash using this plant, which is wildflower gold thread. It was used as mouthwash and as a mouth cleanser, and on the gums for dental pain, and also for teething. And even when it came to Native Americans using the bathroom, you had a really good sense of don't poop where you eat. So a hole would be dug, not too far from where people lived. The excrement would be put in the ground rather than on top because predators can track that kind of stuff. Or it would be excreted into water that was downstream because we understood the importance of raw sewage and how it can affect our health. England could have definitely taken some tips on that if you know anything about how polluted the Thames River became due to raw sewage. So anyway, back to the Stinkies. So when the Pilgrims arrived in Plymouth in the early 17th century, they didn't smell good. I love that History.com says they didn't smell terrific. And according to Native American accounts, like the Wampanoag who did bathe regularly, the Europeans did not. Natives even tried and failed at convincing them to wash themselves. Bathing, as you and I know, was very, very uncommon among Western Europeans until the later part of the 18th century. Which is why I find this kind of wild because y'all weren't taking care of your undercarriage. We had to teach you to do that, and then you didn't even want to do it. And this wasn't just like the lower class people, this went for all social classes. Louis, though, I forget how to do these numbers, 10, 5, 6, Louis the 16th? No, that doesn't sound right. I forgot how to do these. But one of the Louis, 17th century king of France, is said to have only taken 3 baths in his entire life. Could you imagine what slobbing on his knob must have been like? Ugh. Anyway. So both rich and poor might wash their faces and their hands on a daily basis, but almost no one in Western Europe washed their whole body. And so the Pilgrims and the Puritans who followed them may have even thought that submerging their whole body in water was unhealthy, and taking all of their clothes off to do so was immodest. So that's why John and Jacob look like this over here, wearing all these heavy layers of clothing in the heat. Yuck.
How stinky were Victorian people? When we think of hygiene and history in the West, we think of a lot of sweat and toil and very few baths. Most Victorian people did not have an indoor toilet, and their outdoor toilet was often shared by several families. Toilet paper was invented at the end of the 19th century, and before then, it was mainly old pieces of newspaper that were used to wipe your butt. The summer of 1858 was known as the Great Stink. The smells emanated from the River Thames, where most people dumped their waste. People washed their face, armpits, and crotch each day, but baths happened less often because of the time and energy it took to gather and heat the water. When they did bathe, the whole family took turns using the bath water. This was usually in a metal tub in front of the fire. Clothes were soaked in urine to eliminate stains and grease. Urine contains ammonia, which is an effective cleaning agent. Did you know that American colonists were so stinky that native people could smell them a mile away? Okay, that was a slight exaggeration, but their hygiene was very bad. 17th century Europeans did not regularly participate in full immersion bathing. Instead, they washed their face and hands at a basin each day and believed that washing their linen undergarments was enough to keep their body clean. Native Americans bathed regularly in open rivers and streams. And even their oral hygiene was superior. They used things like chew sticks, mint, and charcoal to keep their teeth fresh and clean. Many of us were taught in school that Native Americans were simply defeated by the strength of European troops, but this wasn't true. Germs killed more native people than guns. Millions of native people died because of the horrible diseases brought over by Europeans as a result of bad hygiene. This included diseases like smallpox.
I made the conscious decision to stop washing my hands. I think when I was in college.
Was it college for you?
I don't know. That's when I remember it, because one of my good friends from college also doesn't wash her hands, and it was like how we had that bonding experience. One day I was like, I'm just not gonna wash them. She was like, I'm not either. I don't wash my hands.
I don't really trust people that wash their hands because, well, one, I don't think it does anything to actually wash. It doesn't do anything to actually wash them.
I do wash if I go number 2.
They didn't used to wash them back in like way back in the day when they didn't have, and you would go to the bathroom out in the outhouse. Nobody washed their hands then, and there was less diseases.
I sometimes, like, when my roommate's home, I'll have to, like, turn the water on, because I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm, like, disgusting.
I'll, like, text. I'll, like, turn the water on and, like, take a text break and be
literally,
like...
I'm like, When you're at work and someone that you know goes into the stall, you're like, well, I guess I'll fake wash my hands now.
We're always in the bathroom with Kate, and I'm always like...
We also don't shower.
The hand washing. I thought that was going to be like, everyone was going to be like, thank you for speaking your truth, queen. Everyone's like, you're fucking disgusting.
That is gross.
That's gross. And I'm like, and I posted a video yesterday. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you say that, I had to delete it. I was like, you're really saying in the comfort of your own home, you wash your hands after you pee? No, you fucking don't. All the comments are like, yeah, I fucking do. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to be like, yes, queen.
And like, oh, I think about like, do my roommates see that? Does she think I'm just
Don't
making
you think everyone
germs
thinks you're
everywhere?
gross
Yeah.
now? It's just like, I just when I'm peeing, I'm just not washing.
That's one thing we don't lie about. We lost friends over this though, so I get it.
Do you use a washcloth?
Answer first, and then Mo will tell you the history of this question.
I'm like kind of hurt by this because I try to look. I get up at 4:45 a.m. I try to look my best and look clean. Do I not look clean?
That's that's really not what the question is
that
about.
not why-
Do you use a wash? Not do you shower? Do you use the actual washcloth?
I have a washcloth in my bathroom that I use for my hands when I wash my hands after using the restroom. Does that count?
In the shower?
No, in the shower.
Do you use?
No.
What the hell?
See? Yeah, see?
What? What?
All right, so
I'm feeding into this white stereotype.
I'm
yeah,
so
that's what it's a
confused.
white stereotype.
You specifically use it to wash your legs specifically?
No,
like
everything.
Your body, your whole body.
Yeah.
You can't use your hands?
Like
no,
you could, but you're not
why?
getting the dirt off of there.
Oh no, Abby. No.
And next time I hire somebody, this is one of the interview questions.
I don't wash my hands.
Oh, I was going to say that too.
I don't care. I'm done. I'm done hiding it.
Also, we talked about this.
Yes.
Boys washing their hand, that means your dick's dirty. If you have to wash your hand after you pee, what do you get, a dirty dick? And why do girls have to wash it? We don't touch nothing.
We don't even touch nothing.
I get when you take a shit, wash your hands.
I will wash my hands when I take a shit always.
Yes, but why do I have
Just
to
in
wash my
case.
hands? For what? I'm not sticking my hand up my vagina. And you know what's crazy? And I think a lot of people do this. Like, if I'm in a public restroom and there's people in the stalls, I will, even after I pee, go to the sink, wash the water, like pretend. Run the water, pretend I'm washing my hands, get some
out
paper
of there.
towels, get out.
Or I'll run. I'll run out of the bathroom before the other person comes out.
Washcloths are for poor people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've only had one friend use washcloths, and when she would stay with me, she'd say, "Can I have a washcloth?" And I said, "I don't have washcloths. There's no washcloth. Use your hand, dummy."
I really do remember the first time I crashed at a poor friend's house, and then he handed over like a towel for after the shower, and then a bar soap, and then a little one. I go, "What's the little towel?" And he goes, "A washcloth." And I go, I threw it back at him. I'm like, "I'm good." And he was like,
Amber?
Yes.
My love. I recently saw something that said poor people use washcloths, which I beg to differ with for a number of reasons. So I want to ask you, do you use a washcloth?
No, I do not.
Why don't you use a washcloth?
Because I'm white.
Do you use a washcloth?
No.
Me either.
That
I
is
think
disgusting.
Am I scrubbing my body with a washcloth?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I know. I think we're.
That is like a UTI waiting to
I
happen.
think we're in the minority. I really do. No, I think we are.
People use washcloths?
I think so.
Like for their body?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, what are you washing your butt with?
My hand. I mean, like, what? I would never. I would never. I'm crying. Would never do that.
No,
I'd burn the wash.